chop, all my young homie. All my young homie, chop, 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 all my young homie. Chop, 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 chop.
What is up, everyone? Michael Manatskanian here, and I am so stoked for today's training. So, every once in a while we do live office hours where you ask questions and all that kind of stuff. Sometimes I do topic-specific training. That typically is a result of things I am educating in my paid super investors community, things that I think are relevant to lots of people. So I just put it out there to help as many other people as possible, or people continue to ask me lots of questions about a very specific topic. So then I think, okay, well, let me just create a video on that. Let me provide those answers to as many people as possible. And today is a very training focused, but interactive topic that we're going to be going over. So just as a brief reminder, if you don't know who I am Michael Manatskanian. I am a real estate investor. I've been purchasing property since 2020 and currently own over 70 rentals. I specialize in the rent by the room or co-living strategy. I buy most of my deals leveraging creative financing, and I raise all the money to buy my investments. When I was starting out, I bought properties that my wife and I lived in one unit and rented out the others, and that was our start, and just continued to level up step by step, property by property, and have scaled to a pretty awesome portfolio that allows my wife and I to be financially free, and just continue buying assets and helping other people on their journey. So that being said, the best ways to get connected with me so that you can get access to all of the free tools, education, all that good stuff that I provide, I give away essentially everything for free. I have my super investors community. It's a paid community, right? But it's very limited to who I am willing to accept in there. Only those that I feel like are ready to further invest financially and are ready to take the next step in their investing journey. Everything else I give away entirely for free. All the things that people charge tens of thousands of dollars for, I just give it away for free. It doesn't mean I'm perfect and I have a million videos and this and that, but it does mean that I'm trying constantly to provide you as much value as possible. And I'm continually tweaking and adding more YouTube, whatever, all those different pieces of content, tools, all that stuff, all the things I wish I had that I then created. I'm trying to give as much of that away for free to as many people as possible. So with that being said, the best thing to do is take advantage of all that. I literally have my social media between Instagram, YouTube, and my free Wealth Through Real Estate community, which has a bunch of tools like calculators, templates. We're actually going to talk about it today, go through some of the stuff in there, as well as get your questions answered, but not just by me, by 1,500 plus other real estate investors who have broad range of skills and focus areas that they can provide you that support. That's what that community is for. It's a massive cheat code for you that you can interact with people without paying, get access to free courses, just literally free courses that I create and give to you to help you on your journey. On top of that, my YouTube is never going to be the biggest, but it should provide you a ton of value because of how in depth I go in on various topics. Stay connected on there. Let me show you how to take advantage of some of this stuff, and then we'll go into the core topic of today, which actually let's just highlight that real fast. Let's go into the core focus of today's training. What I am calling it is let's see if I can phrase that better. The focus of today's training is really your path to financial freedom, right? The real estate investing. What's imperative is that you clearly understand that a lot of people love the concept, the idea of, yes, I'm going to be financially free through real estate. What they cannot do is execute on that. And there's a tons of reasons why. We're going to talk about where most people fail. In my opinion, the majority of it comes through, they just have a scattered strategy and they're constantly chasing shiny objects rather than making progress. We're going to go over the full property acquisition process. How do you go from a property that is just available all the way to actually closing and owning on it? What does that journey look like? That should help a lot of you guys who want to know what the next step is and the next step is, so you can build your journey, whether it's your first deal or you're looking for a more systematic way to continually acquiring deals. It's the same process every time. There's intricacies in the steps, right? And it changes a little bit, but like the overall concept is the same. You have to go through the same core steps. how you are going to get laser focused with your time, energy, and investing efforts. So you actually are doing the thing you want to do, not constantly burning yourself out, overwhelming yourself, and really little to nothing to show for it besides being busy all the time. Yeah, that's not ideal. As well as how you are going to then go and clearly define your strategy, your buy box, and make faster and better investment decisions so you can actually gain momentum to your real goal. This one is really catered towards my buy and hold investors, those that A, are currently buy and hold investors, or B, know that's what they want to do, whether they're wholesalers, flippers, brand new into the game, wherever your investing journey currently is at. This is designed to help you specifically get very clear on the actual real estate investing. So with that being said, ways to connect, ways to collaborate, right? Well, Instagram is going to be the first place. Michael M&AT, nice and easy. Let's connect on there. DM me, ask me your questions, take advantage of the free stuff I share here. Plus, I give away lots of free tools and products in the post that I make. So it's like, hey, I've got an investment calculator. Drop this word and let me get you access, or see my journey, whatever, that component of it. We have my YouTube channel, Super Investors REI. Take advantage of that. I mean, like literally, how to pick the perfect co-living market. I don't even know why it says 60 seconds. That was dumb, but it really is. It can be really fast if you choose it. How I buy real estate using none of my own money. Breaking down real deals step by step, an actual deal from start to finish, step by step. Budgeting, financial freedom, net worth, all these variety of things. Take advantage of these videos. But if you want it to be even better, take advantage of the Wealth the Real Estate community. The link is in my Instagram bio. So if I were to show you, or even on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, links, there's Super Investors, but there's the free Wealth the Real Estate community right here. And on Instagram, you go to my buy box, right? You click that link. Not only can you see who I am, what I've done, but you get access to my free school community here, social media stuff here, free real estate calculator right here, my buy box, the types of deals that I'm looking for, literally right here. If you have deals you want to submit, or if you're a buyer that wants to do similar things that I do, great. I give you the cheat code. I tell you what I'm looking for. You want to replicate that or adapt it to yourself, do so. If you are someone who wants to just partner with me, you have money and you want to own assets or lend it for solid returns backed by real estate, this is exactly how you do that. If you want to learn more about Super Investors and potentially join, which is a paid community, or actually you can't just join, but you can apply and then we can have an interview and see if it's the right fit for both of us. You can go for it through there, or once again, Wealth the Real Estate right here. So it's all in there. I try to make it as easy as possible. I'm not some marketing person or whatever, but I've got some of this stuff set up to make your life easier. Once you are in Wealth the Real Estate, let's go back. Once you are in Wealth the Real Estate, you could take advantage of the various courses and trainings that I have in here, as well as the tools that are there. What I'm going to be doing is revamping all this education in the near future to make it more cohesive and kind of a journey, and like pick your own journey as an investor. Not every single path has to be the same. And we're going to talk about that today. That's kind of one of the best parts of real estate, that there's so many options to choose from that are good paths that will make you money and will help you on your journey. But it's also so freaking overwhelming, which prevents the majority from ever taking action. And on top of that, just because there is a profitable path that you think might make sense, it's got to align with what your overall goals are. I see lots of people focused on activities that are not in alignment with their goals. And they're surprised why they're not actually making progress, because if your goal is to build passive income, but you're spending all your time and energy trying to wholesale or focus on active income, you're going to have a very high likelihood of failing generating that active income because you're not in alignment with your goal. That extra $5,000, $10,000 is a nice to have, right? For you that's focused on passive income, but it's not going to move the needle and force you to wake up early or force you to put in extra work that the majority are not willing to, because it's not going to lead to your actual passive income. It's not going to lead to your actual financial freedom, right? You got to have alignment with what your goals are and what path you choose for real estate investing. If you have $200,000, let's say, and you want to own assets, but you don't have but you don't want to put in a bunch of time and effort into finding deals, operating them and all that. Well, you trying to go and find deals, own them independently, and operate them may not make as much sense as you partnering with someone who will do the operations piece. They'll find the deal and operate it, like myself. That's what I do. And you just fund those deals and you both benefit from that. That's what this whole thing is all about, is understanding what your goal is, what activities you want to do, what advantages you have, and then how you're going to progress in this journey. And we'll talk all about that as part of this. And that's what this training series is going to be much more focused on moving forward. I'm going to really break that down. In addition, you have access to the community right here. You can connect in it. Well, you see a couple of my posts because I just comment on some, but there's tons of people constantly asking questions, getting them answered, connecting. 1,500 people you can connect with. When people ask questions like, super helpful video, fantastic job on the calculator, I'm assuming there's something that handles balloon payoffs. So like a loan balloon payoff, which is especially important with certain loan products and creative financing, it's like, yes. So in the calculator that I provide you, I can also help and answer questions in general. Make sure you grab the copy. It does it for all types of loans. You can use it for a sub-2 deal, a seller finance deal, a traditional deal, whatever, or hybrid where there's seller finance and subject to. And because those balloons, right, when the loan is due in full, even if it's not fully paid off yet, it has to be, right? That's what a balloon is. You want to be able to analyze, like, what is the balloon? What is the balloon amount here in this instance, right? I said, here's where it is in the calculator. Well, you started with a $185,000 loan that you took over. You have a balloon in 10 years on that loan. In 10 years, you're going to owe $158,603. And over that 10-year span, you've paid off $68,000 of principal. So let me clarify this. This one is a little confusing because subject to loans are you're taking over someone's existing loan product. So you don't actually pay off $68,000 in those 10 years. The previous owner of the property and the loan pay that much off in conjunction with how much you've paid off up to that point. And the interest paid is $59,299. And what you owe is $158, and the total loan payments is $286. This is something I think I should look into because that doesn't seem right. But I'll figure that out. That's okay. I created all these things, so if things are wrong, I can improve them, which is cool. Seller finance, okay, it's a $31,000 loan, 10 years at 6% interest rate. All the terms are different. The loan is different. And then so the balloon terms are different. And what you're paying off in 10 years is this amount. You want to understand all that stuff. It's in there. If there are errors, please freaking help me out. If you realize this doesn't make a lot of sense, post this stuff in there and tell me because I can fix all of it because I created all of it. I'm not perfect. When you create investment calculators like that are like, let me show you. Oops. That are like this intense and this insane. This is the paid version for super investors. When you make calculators that have so much capabilities, like analyzing all types of deals, traditional, creative, all forms of creative, cash, DSCR loans, have balloons, have all management strategies in place, have variety of entry costs, have long-term analysis, have cash on cash return, cash flow, auto negotiating, like auto projecting what numbers would make sense for those deals, analyzing long-term after repair value. If you're raising money and you want to quickly figure out what can I offer and what are their returns for the amount of money that they invest, long-term analysis, dashboards for private money lenders and private money partners to share that stuff with them. All of these things that you're bound to make errors. It's okay. That's reality. That's life. You are bound to make errors. It's okay. So let me fix that stuff if that stuff comes up and I need to look into what might have gone wrong here in this instance. So we'll see what went wrong there. 250 minus that. Yeah, because this isn't right. 250 minus this, it's not right. So I'd have to figure that piece out, and that's fine. I can do that. But when there's errors, please let me know so I can fix that kind of stuff. All right, and that's a great place to do so is wealth through real estate. So there's that, right? There's questions, getting those answered by me and other people. There's someone has another question about the calculator and how to analyze DSCR loan on there versus seller finance. And this was the previous version before I made the update, made it even easier, because now you just drop down. This is also capable on the free calculator that you get access to. Hey, I want to do just a subject to deal, or I want to just do a seller finance deal, or I want to do a traditional DSCR loan, or I want to do a cash deal, or whatever the scenario is. It'll automatically adjust towards that and block off all the things that are irrelevant. And so because of his question, I not only improved it, I helped him analyze his deal live for everyone else to see as well during my live office hours that came up the next day. And I made improvements to the calculator to allow for that more seamlessly. Instead of just saying it, now you can drop down and make it happen for you. Take advantage of this community, not just for me. I'm one piece of it. Take advantage of it because of everyone else in there, the trainings, the tools, the resources, and also my support. Cool. So today what we're going to focus on is, I'm going to show you how to actually get there. What we're going to focus on, as I just mentioned, was this very specific topic of your path to financial freedom through real estate. Understand this. There are a lot of ways to do real estate investing. If your overall goal is to be financially free through real estate, that means you need to have assets, properties that are creating cash flow for you every single month. Cash flow is the net profit left over every single month. Is it that you'll have to put in zero effort? Not really. Like real estate's one of those things. It's not like in stocks where you put the money in, you invest one time, right? You can just invest it and then it does its thing and then you just choose when you're going to sell it in the future. With real estate, even if you have an asset manager, you have property management, you have bookkeepers, CFO, you have everything, it still requires some level of involvement from you as the owner. However, that you're no longer exchanging your time for that money that's being generated. You're getting like for a few hours a week, I get paid a ton of money passively a month through my real estate business because of all the effort that I put in up front. Real estate is one of those, every investment requires an upfront investment. So if you're doing stocks or you're a lender, which is more so passive, well, you have to work a bunch to save a bunch of money to then be able to lend or invest in stocks. Real estate is one of those things where instead of investing a bunch of your personal money, you can invest your hustle, your work ethic, and find great deals and present them to people that will fund them, right? That's a lot of upfront work, acquiring, and we'll go through that whole acquisition process, but all that upfront work to then have basically semi-passive cash flow coming in, which makes you financially free. You're getting money every month with little to no effort of your own, right? At that point, and it covers all of your expenses. That is financial freedom. To do that through real estate investing, you need to understand that that comes from cash flow from your properties. To get cash flow from your properties, you need to own properties, right? To own properties, I'm going to show you what that process looks like. But that is the path. You cannot fix and flip your way to passive income. You cannot wholesale your way to passive income. You have to actually own the assets. You have to have ownership of them, right? That's the main focus. And it's a very straightforward process. And I'm going to share with you what that property acquisition process looks like. To go from a potential deal, just a property that's available available on the market, all the way to actually owning it, so that then you can actually get that passive income. Because a lot of people get stuck. But where most people fail, in my opinion, is they fail before they start. Most people don't fail when they're doing the thing, they're buying properties and all that kind of stuff. They fail before they start because they cannot make enough progress with their journey, or they're getting overwhelmed or burnt out or have mindset issues, which don't allow them to actually make progress. Okay? Let me say that again. Most people fail because they can never actually start. And it's not that they're not spending a bunch of time and energy. They are. You're very busy doing a bunch of random things. Probably a lot of the people I'm talking to right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not that you're not trying. You're putting an effort. You're busy, but you're chasing this shiny object. You're chasing this strategy. You're trying to do all of these different things without developing your foundations first and then getting good at one thing before you add the next thing. And that prevents you from actually making real progress. If your goal to financial freedom is properties that generate you cash flow. Well, if you're not buying properties and they're not generating you cash flow, then you can't actually make real progress. That's your most important metric to track. How many properties do you have and how much money do they make you? Everything else is necessary to get there, but there's a lot of things people are focusing their time and energy on that are not actually benefiting them. When I go through the full property acquisition process, we're going to talk about what are the core steps you need to take once you identify clearly what are you going to be doing, and leveraging a very clear investment strategy first, and then a very clear buy box, right? This is how I want to invest in real estate. These are the ways I'm going to acquire properties. These are the types of properties I'm going to buy. This is how I'm going to buy them. This is how I'm going to fund them. This is the management strategy that I'm implement. That helps you then create a buy box, which quite literally is your filter. When deals like this come my way, or I can present this to other people so they can bring these opportunities to me, then you say, I'm only going to focus on investments that fit within this buy box and meet my investing criteria. If that is the case, then you run it through the property acquisition process. The problem is people have no investment strategy defined, or they're just copying someone else's when it's not in alignment with what they actually want to do. That is why a lot of people who want passive income or financial freedom and have enough money in reserves, have good active income currently from their employer, start pursuing things like wholesaling, when wholesaling is not going to help them on their actual goal of being financially free. I'm pausing to let you think about that, because half the people watching this who have money in the bank might even already have some properties or experience and know that they want financial freedom, are stuck trying to wholesale or do all these other things that are not actually benefiting them towards their real goal. So I'm letting you reflect on that for yourself, because I can tell you everything. I can show you everything. I can't force you to change your habits, to change the way you think about investing. That's ultimately up to you. But I can quite literally tell you, for the dozens, hundreds, 1,000+ people I've helped, this is the common denominator. They don't clearly know what their investing goal is. What are they pursuing? If they define what they're pursuing pretty well, they know they want to do this, well, then the investment strategy that they're focused on is not in alignment with their actual goals. So if that's not the case, then your actions are not in alignment, right? And then if they do have clarity on their investment strategy and it's tied to their financial goals, well, does the buy box, the types of deals that they're looking at and they're spending time and energy on, does that match? Does that make sense in regards to their investment strategy? Because a lot of people spend a bunch of time and energy pursuing things that don't make sense for them. Once again, it is busy work. You're doing something. It's just not actually helping you get your actual goal. It's all about going through this process step by step by step. But ultimately, if your goal is financial freedom through real estate, you have to start with an end goal in mind and then work your way towards there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the property acquisition process so that you can see what all those steps are. Because a lot of people get stuck in the middle steps, right? But this is the foundation. Those are the most important. What is your end goal? What gets you there? Is your goal right now active income? You need to be able to make $5,000, $10,000 by the end of this month to cover your expenses. Or is that piece of your journey met? You've already done that through your job, you have reserves, and you want now to focus on passive income. Cool. Well, that comes through owning assets. That's what your energy should be focused on. And that is where you develop your investment strategy based on your financial goals. Who I help in super investors are not wholesalers, not bird dogs. I do help those guys currently get into or expand on the buy and hold process, right? That is who I am helping in super investors, help you get started or scale on your buy and hold real estate investing journey, but not just do that, but to maximize your results, to be able to buy more deals that have better returns, that generate you more wealth and cash flow, using little to none of your own money. That's what I help super investors do. Whether you are a wholesaler, whether you are a whatever it is, like that's the main focus of there. That's the investment strategy that I help them create. Then I help them create their intentional buy box that is in alignment with that investment strategy, with their overall goal, because we already know what their goal is: financial freedom through real estate. I know I'm sounding redundant, but that is intentional, because this is probably the most important thing you can do. A lot of people, myself included, when I started, focus more on just taking action, random action, which is cool for like a few weeks or even a few months. But you get stuck there. What the hell are you doing? You're wasting your life when you could be doing anything, spending time with your family, working out, meal prep. You could do literally, you could go travel the world, you could do anything. But instead, you are doing all of these random things that are not actually helping you achieve your goal. Well, if you are spending the time and energy and you have this goal, well, then make sure your actions are in alignment with your overall goal. How do you do that? Investment strategy, buy box, property acquisition process. So let's see what that looks like, because once you have those two, that allows you to get laser focused with your time, energy, and investing efforts. And that happens through clear strategy, buy box, and you just get better and better over time. So let me screen share and just share with you visually so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, so if you go to Classroom, I just added this in here to the Start Here section. It'll be somewhere else in the future. Sorry, I'm going to move it. But I put this visual for you, and I created this based on a lot of the stuff I talk about in my Super Investors community. Actually, this is the exact funnel that my community will be seeing live today. And this ties in directly to their investment strategy that we talked about last week, developing their intentional buy box this week, and then moving through the entire property acquisition process together step by step, so they clearly understand why they're taking what actions, what to expect throughout this entire journey, and then how to maximize results in every single step of this. To be honest, there are a lot more steps, but this is kind of the overview. If I give you every step right now, you're going to get overwhelmed again. That's just the reality of it. Overwhelm and lack of clarity are the reason why most people fail, because they can't start with that in mind. All right. So the property acquisition funnel, right? Assuming you already know what your financial goal is, what you are focused on with real estate investing. And this is for those that want financial freedom through real estate, which comes from owning assets, right? What is the main goal here at the bottom of the funnel? Investment properties owned, right? Investment properties owned lead to cash flow, lead to freedom when you stack enough of those. And it leads to wealth because you get debt pay down, appreciation, tax benefits, all that good stuff. But this is your goal. You need to understand this is the goal for what I am teaching you right now. And all of this is to give you a systematic, scalable process so that you can actually buy your first or next or 10th or 100th deal with more systems and clarity, and making sure that your time and effort is focused on the right things. So if your goal is investment properties owned, because that leads to freedom, right? Financial freedom, you need to clearly define what is your investment strategy. What does that mean, right? And I kind of highlighted it, but I'm going to reiterate it. An investment strategy is basically, this is how I'm looking to do real estate right now, okay? When I started my investing journey, this was kind of decided for me to an extent. When I started, I was stationed in Fairbanks, Alaska with the military, right? I was at Fort Wainwright, and I wanted to get into real estate, and my route was going to be house hacking. I was going to buy a either single family home and rent out the rooms, which my wife said, definitely not, or buy a 2 to 4 unit property, live in one unit and rent out the others. So that was going to be my acquisition process. I was going to find an on-market 2 to 4 unit property, live in one unit and rent out the others. Well, there was a variety of loan products to do that with. There's a VA loan, 0% down, military loan, FHA loan, 3.5% down, or 5% down conventional loan. All of those allow you to buy 1 to 4 unit properties for low down payment. I was going to use one of those. Well, you got to choose which one's the best. Well, obviously the VA loan, 0% down. That's great. That's what I was going to do. And I knew I could buy up to 4 units. My wife and I at that point were renting a 2 unit property. We lived in one side and the neighbors lived downstairs. or we lived upstairs, they lived downstairs. We knew, okay, we could do this. This is possible for us. But because of those factors, the loan product, where I was located, or where the loan product, which required me to buy a property that I lived in, or had to be local. So my market was decided, my strategy was decided, how I was going to acquire it was decided, funding, I would use my own money to get into that deal. You need to then choose your investment strategy. What makes the most sense for you? The super investor investment strategy is like clearly a data-driven thing. It is created specifically to get you more cash flow and more investments that are, you can buy more properties that get you better returns, and you can raise money for those deals so that you're able to scale using little to none of your own actual money. Why is that so important? Well, I don't know if you think like I do, but if my goal is whatever my goal is, let's just say $10,000 a month in cash flow, I want to get there as quickly and as conveniently as possible. And the best way to do that is to get more cash flow per investment and be able to buy more properties more quickly and not have any unnecessary bottlenecks like my own money. So the combination of co-living plus capital raising plus creative finance, which allows for more deals that make financial sense and to get into them with less money down and better returns, it's all catered by data, by numbers, to be able to get you to that overall goal more quickly. So that's the investment strategy. You choose whatever makes sense for you. I don't care. Even to super investors, I lay out all the different options and I say, based on the numbers and based on my personal journey, this is why we go this route for the investment strategy, especially in today's market. The investment strategy can change. It worked really well for me when my goal was buy one house hack, 2 to 4 unit property, live in one unit, rent out the other, and the next year do the same and do the same. Well, by the time I started, I've completed the first one, I was hooked. I already wanted to do more than waiting a year for the next house hack. I did it for 3 years in a row, but I was also incorporating other investment strategies because I got really good on mine. And I was limited to how many I could buy, one a year, through the house hack strategy. So I had to incorporate other things, but I got clear and executed on the thing I wanted to do. And it made the most logical sense at that time. It was easier because properties were worth less than they are now in 2020 and interest rates were lower. And I lived in a market where buying a multi-unit and renting it out made a lot of financial sense. So that's a big part. Does your investment strategy also make sense? Once you have your investment strategy, you then create your buy box that then allows for, like, your investment strategy is kind of the collective, right? And the way a funnel works is at the top, it's the broadest, and then it narrows and narrows and narrows down for a variety of reasons, whether you're intentionally narrowing it down or you are, or like things just fall out. And I'll explain what that means in some of these lower ones. If you think about it, I don't know how many, okay, let's see how many properties, how many real estate properties are in the US. 125.7 million properties in the US, right? And I don't know if these are houses or whatever, but 125 million. Okay, well, if you don't have an investment strategy, are you going to just look at 125 million properties to make sense? No, you need to have an investment strategy for how you're going to acquire these deals, and then a buy box to hyper filter. What markets are you going to invest in? What management strategy makes the most sense? And based on that management strategy, what types of properties make the most sense? If I'm doing co-living, I want bigger properties in primary cities, right? Better states that have larger populations, that have a high demand for rent by the room, because it makes sense for that. So what are those markets? What types of properties that make the most sense? Bigger properties. If you're getting a little confused here, that's what this is for, right? So I want to buy based on my investment strategy. I want to do co-living, creative finance, capital raising. Then I can create a buy box. Mine is more broad than yours is. Understand that. That's just part of the journey. I am more than likely several steps ahead of you, unless you currently own $20+ million of real estate and have raised millions of dollars, I'm probably a few steps ahead of you. So mine is broader because I have the bandwidth, the skills, and the team to look at more opportunities than you probably can. But when I started, it was, right, I told you very clearly, I am buying 2 to 4 unit properties in my local market, acquiring them using VA loans. So what was my buy box? At that point, every single 2 to 4 unit property that hit the market that was within a logical location. And then I analyzed all those deals. There wasn't so many. I mean, we're talking about Fairbanks, Alaska. It's like 30,000+ population. There wasn't so many investments that I had to filter more than that. And that's kind of the same concept here. I can filter lots of markets and have broader criteria for what I'm willing to buy than you probably can. So create a buy box that is actually feasible for you. You can leverage this if your goal is co-living and just hyper focus on the markets that make the most sense for you. A, it's always got to be data driven. So where the strategy makes sense, but B, do you have certain advantages in certain markets? Is one more local to you? Or do you have people or contacts or whatever in those markets that can make one more advantageous to the other? For me at this point, it's purely data driven. I don't need any advantages, any people there, because I am part of lots of real estate communities. I have a lot of super investors. I help a lot of people in the real estate. I know how to quickly and effectively find the resources that I need in a market and start from scratch in a new market. You may not be there yet. You have to start that in one area first, so then you can expand on being able to do that in more markets. So the funnel, investment strategy, then you create a buy box, which says, okay, for all the properties that could make sense with this investment strategy, where are my automatic filters, right? Which market am I going to buy in versus, because like if there's 125, whatever we said, 125 million properties, well, your investment strategy will filter out the vast majority. Maybe there's 100,000 right now. That would make sense for this. I don't know, right? I don't actually know. But then you have a buy box that says, hey, if there's an HOA, if there is it's too small, it's not in these markets, I'm not even going to look at it. That's what your buy box does. Really, it's investment decision for you, but it's really a filter. And if you are buying deals the way that I buy deals, primarily leveraging relationships with wholesalers, bird dogs, and other joint venture opportunities as well, and people are bringing me deal flow, well, they help me filter out every one of those 125 million properties that don't make sense, right? And remember, not every property is for sale, but let's see. How many properties are currently for sale, USA? Maybe that's a better way to think about it. Then you add direct to seller and you add, they're not listed, but they could be. But there's $2 million properties for sale. 2 million properties for sale. Like, that's a lot. Filter, 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 because you don't have the bandwidth. You literally don't have the time to look at everything. And understanding your investment strategy and creating a buy box that's in alignment with that. For example, I mentioned my co-living one, right? My rent by the room strategy. I need bigger, better properties, bigger properties. I don't like HOAs. I prefer creative finance. That's my strategy. I don't want to do new loans and all that, especially not deals that are coming from other people. I can train bird dogs separate from this to find me on-market deals that I can do traditional financing or cash deals. I don't need people to send me those or submit those. We can do that independently. And the most important is the markets. Give me big markets. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm just leveraging the data for PadSplit, right? The platform that is the number one platform for rent by the room data. Here's their core locations. If you don't have access to that, you need to sign up, because then you get access to things like this bird dogging training. I show you how to do it. You get access to a map like this that shows you where are they operating, where are their core markets in blue, in gray, where are the emerging markets, where are they expanding to, and in their core markets, give me the data for that market, give me the data per zip code, and what data, how many units there are, right? How many units do they have and how many are coming up versus how much people are looking for housing? What the average shared bathroom goes for, what the average private bathroom goes for, occupancy data, all this helps you with the analysis. It's really hard when you're operating in markets without a lot of data, or you're doing strategies where it's hard to get that data. That's why I only do co-living for the most part in PadSplit markets. Does it mean I always use PadSplit as the platform to manage my properties? Not necessarily, but it does mean I'm always leveraging their data to the best of my ability to make good informed decisions. But then you choose, okay, what states make the most sense? What cities make the most sense? What zip codes am I willing to consider? Right? You don't need to get that niche down, but that is helping you with that journey. You get access to that once again. Wealth to real estate, take advantage of that. It's literally there. If you need to sign up for Passport, it's free. Do so. Get your log in and then click this link and it'll take you to that data. Or look here. And it's crazy because all the time I can never keep up with them. They continue to expand. When I started with PadSplit, it was pretty much Atlanta and a few other cities. This is unbelievable. And I pretty much took this screenshot not too long ago, and it's already more markets. They've already added Idaho and all that stuff. It's already more markets. It's hard to keep up with them, which is great because that means it continues to expand, which means my investment strategy makes sense because as short-term rentals continue to get more and more regulated, which is another potentially high cash flow investment strategy, as those get more and more regulated, there's less of them making sense. It's the exact opposite for co-living where there's more demand, more drive for this type of housing because the economic conditions. I've got a million trainings on that. We're not going to expand on that right now. Okay, once you have your buy box, just to give you an example for like a short-term rental buy box or like long-term rentals. The best long-term rentals that make the most financial sense are those that are, it's really like those that cater to Section 8 or cheaper, smaller properties in lower cost markets that are easier to get into, lower cost to get into. And then the rent is like $1,000 or $1,200 a month compared to the $100,000 property value. Get into it for 25% down. We could look at the numbers on that, but those tend to be some of the best long-term rentals or small multifamilies. So then you need to have a different buy box for that. My larger properties don't tend to be larger properties in great locations, do not tend to cater well to that investing strategy. Or short-term rentals where it used to be easier just to kind of make anything work. But now it's like, am I in a market that really caters towards tourism and allows for tourism? And then what types of properties make sense for that? Those tend to be sometimes bigger, better properties with more amenities in key travel locations. You see how we take the investment strategy, which should be in alignment with your financial goals, in this instance, buying properties, and then create a buy box that makes sense for that, right? And that's filtering out a lot of potential opportunities so that you're not wasting your time on things that don't make sense. Someone sends me a property with an HOA, cool, I know not to even look at that. But then those that do pass the test, then you have to, you have your buy box. People are bringing you these deals, right, that fit within that buy box. Some of these will be filtered out. That's why it's less, because not every deal will make sense for that, right? That's why the amount that you analyze is lower than the amount of deals coming in, because that you might get deals that don't make sense, that have an HOA when they weren't supposed to or whatever, because you can't control if people are bringing you deals versus you proactively looking for them. You can filter on Zillow, no HOAs. Someone's bringing you or submitting deals to you or bringing them your way, or Bird Dog is sharing them with you. They're not always going to hit your buy box requirements. So you can easily filter out those that make no sense and then only analyze in detail those that hit the majority of your criteria. You're not going to know if it's a great investment. You're going to know it's not an automatic no-go because you have a clear buy box. You're spending your time and energy on those deals that have the highest likelihood of success. Hopefully that makes sense. Once you have those investments that make sense, let's say 50% don't, right? But 50% do, then you make offers on those deals. Once you make an offer on those deals, maybe 50% of those will get accepted, where 50% won't. And I'm just faking numbers, right? It really depends on a lot of factors, but not every single offer you make will get accepted. So then you have a smaller amount of properties under contract, right? And once you're under contract, once you submit your earnest money deposit and do all that, you're going to get an inspection on the property. Things might come up that you did not notice or see. You just didn't have the ability to see because you didn't have an inspector in there, or you expected this level of damage, but it would cost much more. And the seller is unwilling or unable to renegotiate to accommodate your ability to move forward with that deal. Well, not every property put under contract is one that you will close on. Okay. It could be because the property or what you expected in your deal analysis when you were making it, analyzing the deal, you thought it would cost $20,000 to renovate, but it costs $40,000. The deal no longer makes sense. So that's less deals that you made offers on that were accepted that fall out while you're under contract. Those that go through the entire process, your numbers still make sense, you will then fund those deals. The problem is if you're raising money, not everyone has the ability to raise the money quick enough or enough to be able to fund those deals, right? And that's a limiting factor. Or a lot of these properties you put under contract, once again, fell out because of the inspection or change of the numbers. So between your ability to raise capital and any changes during the inspection due diligence process will limit the amount of deals funded. And when you fund those deals, right, you went through this entire strategy, you have now bought an investment property that makes financial sense for you, that you funded and understood clearly what to anticipate when you take over this asset, and you have a clear understanding of your renovation costs and all these other things because you've done that throughout this process. That's what I mean, where I can make this, well, for super investors, it's like 20, right? But I can't do that in a visual like this for you guys. And not only are you buying the bottom of this funnel of deals that you're actually owning, and they're in alignment with all this stuff, and your numbers are as accurate as they could be, right? Anything could happen, but they're as accurate as they could be based on all the work that you did up to this point, but they're in alignment with your investment strategy that then is in alignment with your financial goals. So now you're actually buying assets that are generating you cash flow, that are building your wealth, that are in alignment with what you actually want to be doing. The problem with most people, there's really two problems. They fail because they can never get this stuff down, or they're not clear on their financial goals and they don't have an investment strategy that makes sense for them, assuming this is buying and holding real estate and then the nuances that I mentioned, how and all that good stuff. They can't start because they're paralyzed through analysis, or they're just overwhelmed and can't make progress through this process. If you have a million deals that you're analyzing, but you never make an offer, you'll never have properties owned. You get stopped somewhere in this journey. Okay, let me actually better explain that. The reason why people don't make progress and they fail is because they can't start effectively. Like they just cannot start, right? They're paralyzed from being able to start. Or they start this journey and they make some progress, but they get stuck in one of these levels because A, they're not competent enough to analyze deals, or they can't generate enough deal or lead flow, or they're analyzing deals but not making offers, right? That happened to me. That was my first 18 months of real estate investing, why I gave myself an ultimatum and almost didn't buy my first property because I was just stuck in the phase of analyzing them. I got really good and knowledgeable. I started doing all this stuff, but I was stuck here until I saw other people, went to a meetup and realized, oh my gosh, these guys are in my local market. These guys are buying the properties that I am analyzing. And as obvious as it sounds now, because I put it out here for you, and as someone with a lot of experience in this now, I was not owning assets that generate me cash flow because I was not making offers. Sounds like, wow, what a revelation. Congrats, Mike. You're so impressive. You figured that out. Well, when you're in the thick of it, it feels impossible. You're like, I'm doing all this work. I'm busy all the time. I'm analyzing all these deals. I'm doing all this shit all the time. Why don't I have real estate to show for it? Well, because I'm not making freaking offers. You got to progress through this funnel, right? If you're not progressing through the funnel, you're not owning assets. That was where I was stuck, and I gave myself an ultimatum. Michael, you are scared because you don't know what this whole process will look like. So you're not making offers, so you don't have to deal with this, right? I was scared because I didn't know what would happen in the future if I started making progress. And B, it just wasn't as step-by-step or systematic for me because no one gave me this information. They say, go buy rental properties. They don't show you how to do any of this crap. They might say you need cash flow. They don't show you how to calculate that effectively. They don't show you how to create an intentional buy box. They don't show you how to choose investment strategies that are in alignment with your financial goals. Or, duh, dummy, you made the analysis, make an offer on those deals. Well, the ultimatum I gave myself, because I saw the people getting the results that I wanted and I wasn't, was First, I was frustrated at myself because I spent all this time and energy with no results to show for it besides numbers on a spreadsheet, which many of you are probably used to as well. It was make an offer on the next deal that made sense. No matter what happened, if it makes sense financially, just make an offer and then deal with the next step as it comes. Thank goodness I did that. And so many things came up. Damages to the property I wasn't accounting for, plumbing leak, and we had to fix the drywall and this and that and whatever. I didn't know how I was going to do any of the next steps. But because I made the next step, I was able to then solve step by step by step as I went through this journey. And the numbers still made sense while I was under contract, funded the deal, closed on it, owned an asset that generated me solid returns. That was then the confidence and momentum I needed to say, damn, I didn't know every step of it when I was when I was here. I didn't know what my next step was going to look like after I made the offer and it was under contract. But I figured it out because I'm capable and I have people I can talk to. We have resources. We are investors who are not doing this individually. If you are, you're making it harder on yourself. Join Wealth Through Real Estate for free or leverage the other communities that you're part of and then figure out all these pieces. And then what I did was I just made every part of this process better and better and better and more systematized and step by step to help other people on that. Well, first to help myself on my investment journey, and then now to help other people on their journey so they don't get stuck before they start. That A, they don't get stuck chasing the wrong things. B, they don't get stuck before they start. C, they're wasting too much time and energy and getting overwhelmed and burnt out, looking at the wrong potential opportunities. Or D, they're getting stuck somewhere here because A, they don't know how they're going to deal with it. They don't know why they're stuck. There's a fault in one of these. I'm an engineer by trade. So like understanding what are the inputs? What is the funnel? Where are my bottlenecks? What needs to be re-looked at? What do we need to recalibrate, right? Because you can have issues with your buy box. A lot of people have extremely unrealistic buy boxes because they end up copying one beautiful one they saw from someone else, but they don't realize that person actually doesn't buy deals. But they want the property that generates them 25% cash on cash return with a lower than 3% interest rate that costs them $20,000 to get into. And they don't realize, okay, well, nothing will hit that criteria, or the one of thousands of potential deals that would be great deals, but they're focused on that one. Maybe they'll be the one to buy it, or that deal is so great, someone else will buy it, right? Like you got to be realistic with this stuff. You got to calibrate when things are going wrong. Why is it going wrong? Do I not have enough inputs? Is my analysis, like you got to do that. That I will leave it at that because that's what I help super investors do. It's actually what tonight's live training is all about. But this is the property acquisition funnel, right? And as I mentioned, most people fail before they start because they're not in alignment with their financial goals, or because they get stuck trying to figure out what should they be doing, or they get stuck doing actions and activities that are not in alignment with an actual investment strategy based on their financial goals, or they get stuck throughout this process. I will say this is the front end of your business. This is how you get deals. This is how you own assets. You just need deals and money, right? That's how you get into properties. Well, the next phase is operations. That's, in my opinion, even more important. I mean, you need to own properties for operations to matter. However, most investors fail because their operations suck. They don't have a clear process for finding contractors, overseeing their work, ensuring that they're getting good quotes, ensuring that they're progressing the way that they should be, ensuring that their payouts make logical sense so that them as the, I as the owner am protected in the way that we're paying out. Someone doesn't take my money and run away with it and we're screwed, or they do bad work and we're screwed, that kind of stuff. And you need to then, if you're doing co-living, furnish your property. Well, you want to do that as quickly and effective as possible. You need to find your local boots on the ground team, your cleaners, your whoever, all those different people who are going to do that work for you. And then you need to get that property rented out, filled up, making you income, paying all your expenses. If you have your income exceeding your expenses, you now have cash flow. But if you just stop here and you buy the deal, well, without doing those other steps, you're not generating that cash flow, or it's taking you a really long time to get there. You just burn through a bunch of money. And once you have that cash flow, that's a result of you paying your expenses, which includes your mortgage. Well, that is allowing you to own your asset and pay down your debts, building your wealth. And you own that asset, so you get the tax benefits. So the operations are necessary to take all of this work and actually materialize your business plan, right? You are materializing the thing you said you're going to do. Now it's actually happening. You own the asset. It's performing the way that you want to because you have profits. You and your partners or you yourself get to keep that cash flow, keep that profit, and those expenses are paying down your debts and your property is increasing in value over time, and you get tax benefits. But if you're not doing this well, and where most people really mess up, where they are able to get properties and even raise money for those deals, but they suck at operations, and you run out of renovation money, but you need more to get operational and no one has it. Well, now you can't do the next step. You can't make money if your property's mid-renovation, or you need to furnish it, but you don't have money for it, or your numbers were way off and you cannot rent the property out and you're not getting the returns that you anticipated. So now your expenses are more than your income and you can't pay those expenses. So now you're not gonna be able to pay your mortgage. You're gonna lose your property. If you brought in a capital partner, they're gonna lose their money. If you bought it creatively, you're screwing over the seller in that scenario. And you did all this time and effort to buy investments that then either lose you money or you end up losing because you cannot continue to operate them effectively. You see how it all plays a massive role together? You need this phase to be able to get deals and buy them. And the better you are with this phase, the more likely you are to have the actual cash flow needed, right? The amount of income needed to pay all your expenses and your cash flow left over. So then you continue owning that property and generating your wealth and your freedom. But if you're buying the wrong deals, you're going to get screwed over. So if you're wasting too much time and energy before you get here, well, that's a whole other thing. Could do a whole other training on operations, but that's not the focus today. This is the property acquisition funnel, right? And hopefully, do you guys have any questions with any of this? I've got a few minutes. I can answer questions, but I really wanted you guys to understand this key component and understand the property acquisition funnel, as well as how you can get access to tons of information and trainings and tools and understanding real estate financial freedom, what that path looks like, and getting your personal finances straight and getting net worth and budget calculators and financial freedom calculators and free creative finance analysis calculators, all that good stuff, and trainings on how to analyze deals and whatever. Once again, it's going to be reformatted to make it even more straightforward. I just need to find some time to do so. Any questions, guys? I hope, once again, I'm over-delivering value because that is my ultimate goal. I hope that you are getting so much value that places you have paid money to, you're thinking, damn, I just learned more in this stuff than I did after paying a bunch of money. At least there's good people out there trying to help me. That's my ultimate goal with doing this. If that is not what is happening and you're not getting a lot of value or whatever, let me know because I could free up my time too. But if you are, do me a favor. Show me some love on Instagram. Show me some love on YouTube. Comment, like, whatever it is. Share this stuff with other people who you think need to hear it, because that's my ultimate goal, is to help as many people as possible, because people spend a lot of time with these communities or spending a bunch of money on things that are not in alignment for them, and they don't get the results that they want. What I want to do is just help you guys. I want to help the person that I was a couple years ago who needed this help myself, because it was hard. And I get like a tenseness on myself. It was so hard when you're in the thick of it, or you think you're doing the right things because you're busy, and you need to take a step back and say, I'm not doing the right thing. Well, it's really hard to do that for yourself. It is a lot easier when someone who's a few steps ahead of you can show you what works well. And that's my ultimate goal for you guys. Oh, Instagram questions, comments. Totally identifying what you're saying. Yes, competence is what breeds confidence. Once you know what you're doing, you can move forward. Absolutely. So you get confidence and competence from, I'm not saying go do things willy-nilly and take action with no thought process. I hope to God that's not what you're saying. I'm saying be very intentional about what you are doing and then understand. That's why I just gave that for free, what the process looks like, and then understand that you may not have all the answers for every step, but that's why it's important to be part of investing or like communities of people who are doing the thing that you want to do, especially at levels higher than you, because they can help you get answers to the things that you may not know how to do. You can leverage other people's competence on your journey to building your own confidence. Hopefully that makes sense. It doesn't, I don't know what the phrase is, but it's something along the lines of like a dumb person never learns from their mistakes. A smart person learns from their mistakes. A wise person learns from other people's mistakes, right? It doesn't have to just be mistakes. It could be other people's successes, but it's dumb people never learn from successes or failures. They just don't learn, especially from failures. That's like the dumbest thing you could do. If you mess up, it doesn't work out, the dumbest thing you can do is give up or not learn from that so that you can make progress to be better in the future. Learning from that makes you a smart person because maybe you made a mistake, but how can you improve it for the next time, right? But the wise person not just learns from their own actions, learns from their own successes and failures, but they're learning through other people's successes and failures as well. You don't have to go through something terrible to learn from what other people have gone through. You can learn from that. And that's why I tried to provide so much of this stuff to you guys to help you learn from my successes and my failures. And that's why I train on the things that I wish I knew when I was starting my journey, when I was acquiring properties and scaling. And then when I really started taking off and scaling through creative finance, capital raising, and co-living, a lot of it over the last 2.5, 3 years. Cool? Thanks, guys. Just show me some love. Appreciate you all. All right. That's all I ask for.
All my young